living la vida low carb. This show is changing lives. We talking about your diet, trying to get you feeling right. Cut up them avocados, fry some eggs, time to explore the longest running health podcast, hosted by Jimmy Moore. Time to give up the crappy garbage, we're getting into ketosis. Every day is a new step to your goal, yeah, you're getting closer. Motivated and focused, don't stop, just go. Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com.
This is the first time I've ever met you. I've seen you online a million years, but I've never actually reached out to you. And I was like, am I big enough for you to come on my little podcast?
Oh, please. Actually, I'm going to jog your memory a little. We met in person. KetoCon in Connecticut, not KetoCon, the Connecticut. Yes.
Keto Fest.
Yes, Keto Fest in Connecticut. A few years ago.
I meet so many people.
I know.
So many conferences. It's like, and it's so funny because when you meet people, they tell you their name, but then you see them online and you know their username.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
at conferences, a lot of times people will say, "Living low carb, man." I'll be like, "Sugar-free mom."
Oh, I get it. I know. Well, happy 50th to you. I know you had a nice celebration. I turned 50 in November myself. So
nice.
Welcome to the club.
I feel like I just started living life. Like, it's so funny because people think, oh, wow, you're old then. No, life just began. So it's kind of fun.
50 is the new 30. I don't know. That's how I feel. I'm feeling good. I feel like you have more of a mission. When you turn 50, it's like, I know what I've done, for these 50 years. Now really, let's get going. Because I know I only have a few, so much time on earth. So.
Well, and look, it's one of those things that I think 50 is a perfect age because you have built up enough wisdom in life, but you still have a lot of life left to live with that wisdom behind you. Not everybody has wisdom at 50, but it looks like you and I at least have that.
Hey, thanks.
So guys, this beautiful woman right here, her name Brenda Bennett. She is I think they call you functional nutritional therapy practitioners now, the FNTP. She's the author of a book called Naturally Keto. She's a sugar detox coach, and she's all about the sugar-free message. We're going to talk about sugar addiction and health and being your own best health advocate, which is Jimmy Moore's jam. So I love that you're here today. Go check her out over on Instagram as a pop-up goes right as I'm showing that.
Nice.
Sugar-free mom is who she is over on Instagram. Go check her out, you guys. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be with you and chat with you today.
Yes. And you have quite the platform. I was looking, you're almost at 150K followers. I'm like, really good things. And like I said, I've been following you for years. And loving kind of what you're doing. Let's back up before you became Miss 150,000 followers on Instagram. Who were you? What got you interested in this message of sugar? Obviously, it had to be a story about how sugar was destroying your life.
Yes, it really was. It goes back to the age of 12, really. Italian, Sicilian, oldest daughter, 3 younger brothers, lots of responsibility, and really just struggled with that and turned to potato chips in the basement one day. No food was restricted, open door policy, sugar was allowed, open the cabinet, eat whatever you want, don't ask, never had to. So it wasn't like that for me, but for some reason I felt that's something I could control and turned to that. By the time I was 15, I was bulimic. And then recovered from that, but the method of recovery was still obsession with food and gaining the weight, not vomiting anymore, but gaining the weight and realizing that method of moderate it. Just don't, that thought process from the therapist was, if you deny yourself, you're going to want it more. And I believed it until the age, for years and years and years, until the age of 22, and I'm only 5'2", I'm short. At 22, a year after college, I was like 160 pounds, and hated being in my own skin. And really no more bulimia, but that constant obsession, constant food thoughts. Oh, I'll be better on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. I can restrain. Now I have parents that my mother does that. She can just eat what she wants on Sunday, And the rest of the week, she's been the first intermittent faster of my life and did follow Atkins. So I grew up with, and my dad would always say, it's not good to eat all day. She didn't eat all day and she saved it for dinner and then enjoyed herself on Sunday. But for me, and I tried that, I can't moderate the sugar and the refined carbs, can't do it. So for me, that was eye-opening. Finally, I think it was 32. A friend's mother was doing a no white rice, no white flour, no white potato, still sweet potato, still whole wheat, still honey or maple syrup, because those weren't as refined sugars, But it worked for me, and I realized, oh, this is a good method. I like the idea of it. And then I had the third baby. And I said, well, I did it once. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. I'm eating for two. And then I threw it all out the window. And then I had my third son. He's 16 now. I had him. And boy, that struggle was even worse. Yes. I realized the addiction was truly there. Like I was like a ravenous lion. I couldn't get enough. The thoughts were horrible. And at that time, what were my choices? This is back in, so he's 2005 or 2004 is when I first went sugar-free, and then I had him in 2005. 2006 is when I recommitted. And I said, I can't do this moderation thing that these people talk about. And most of I've been to nutritionists, traditional nutritionists. I've done Overeaters Anonymous. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done Jenny Craig. I've done all the things. I did that program that was no white flour. It was called Prism.
Yes.
And I realized that, yes, I like a little bit of everything. I like the Overeaters Anonymous idea that it was abstinence between meals. I liked that. I liked Weight Watchers, weekly support. I liked that, so I liked a little bit of pieces of everything, but that moderation from a nutritionist was never going to work for me.
Can we talk about moderation for a second? Because I think this is the biggest lie we have been fed when it comes to things like sugar. Mm-hmm. If you are addicted, if you tell to something other than sugar, like alcohol, if someone's addicted to alcohol, just drink in moderation. No, we don't do that. If you're addicted to crack cocaine, just have forget what's happening right now, sending out crack body, but in moderation. No, we want people to be abstainers, completely off and cut it off. So do that with sugar, when I would argue it's probably the most highly addicted substance that's allowed to be used in the world.
Mm-hmm. And everybody's triggered differently. That dopamine response is triggered differently. So for me, it took years to really break free. It took a good year of that fighting tooth and nail every day to break free from the sugar addiction that I felt that I had, until I started making it a habit where I'm like, that's not my food. I'm not eating that food. It's just not my food. And I became a person that said, I just can't have it. And I choose that every day. I only give myself every 24 hours, maybe different tomorrow, next week, next month. But for the next 24 hours, this is what I choose. So it's never I can't. I choose not to, because it makes me crazy. It makes me crave. And I don't want that. It's too much food thoughts, constant,
Well, I saw a reel the other day on Instagram where the guy had a little smirk on his face, and there was words on the screen that said, if you believe eating fruit is unhealthy, ... run away from those people. And so the notion was, well, because it's natural sugar, and we've seen this when I was in the paleo world circa a decade ago, they put maple syrup in every freaking recipe. And I'm like, can you give me some low carb, sugar-free option? Because I know I don't respond well to that. Well, it's natural, Jimmy, eat it.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
In my metabolism and not insulin resistant. Absolutely.
Right.
But I'm not. And so what you got for me? Throw me a bone, bruh.
Well, yeah, so that's the thing, right? Some people go right to keto. And for me, it took time because of that program with the, eat the sweet potato, not the white potato. Eat brown rice, not white rice. Have natural sugars. So then I started making recipes because my youngest has a tree nut allergy. And I made the granola bars without nuts for him with honey. And then I realized, well, it's a natural sweetener. So why am I still wanting the whole batch? Why am I still craving more than one serving? Because for me, the sweet sugar, that natural or not, triggers that response of more,
You're hitting on something so hard. Thank you for that, by the way. of addiction brain, it
Hmm.
doesn't care, guys, if that sugar comes from a natural source. If you eat one and you want the whole pan,
Yeah.
that's the addiction talking. And that happens all the time, Brenda. And people,
Yes.
well, it's okay because it's fruit. It's okay because I use honey and that's from a bee and that's natural. But like you have to pay attention to your
Right.
own behavior and
Hmm.
propensity. And if it like revs you up and something
Right.
happens in your
Right.
brain, keep eating,
Yeah.
that's a sign.
Right. It is a good sign to know it, but it took me years. It took me years, right? So 2006, I went sugar free and I still ate the honey and the maple syrup and these other higher carb things. So more paleo, I guess it would be. And then by, 2011, I started the blog, sugarfreemom.com, figuring, my brother started it and he's like, Brenda, you're sharing, because I've got emails and my friends are calling me. Oh, Brenda, can you show me this recipe? How did you make it's too time consuming. I got 3 kids. I don't want to do this. Yeah. Oh, that's my chocolate, the espresso coffee cake. Thank you. Cheesecake brownies. Yeah. So I decided to do it on a whim thinking, okay, maybe others need what I am doing, and hopefully they did. And they did. And so I realized that, okay, so 2012 is when I recognized gluten was
Yes.
definitely an issue, and I had to get off wheat.
That was about the time Wheat Belly came out in
Yeah.
20 and Grain Brain came in 2012. So you were right on topic at that point.
Yeah, and then I realized the honey and the maple syrup. So I started doing low carb. But I did low carb until 2015, and then I realized I can't like at a party. Okay, it doesn't have sugar, potato chips, tortilla. I couldn't say no. I couldn't stop that. And I still was kind of eating low fat, during that time. I had a few keto recipes, not on purpose, just because I like cheesecake and I made cheesecake sugar-free. So from 2012 till 2015, really low carb. And again, nobody was going to tell me what to do. I had to learn this the hard way on my own, and realizing why can't I ever say no to some of these higher carb foods, though they don't have sugar in them, but they turn to sugar in your body. And
Right.
2015 is when I decided to do keto, but I also had hair falling out in the back of my head. My
Yes.
eyebrow hair was falling out. I was gaining weight, and I go to the doctor and he's like, well, you're a blogger. You're eating all the food. Get a trainer, Brenda. It's not your thyroid. Get a trainer. He was so condescending, but I believed it.
Yeah.
And sadly, I think many women do. We're not doing enough, right? We're not, even men, I'm not being diligent enough.
Yeah. It's so amazing the messaging that we're given. And of course,
Yeah.
it's trusted people that you're supposed to be able to trust and that they know what they're talking about
Mhm.
and people follow it. But then when they don't see the results, you're the reason. It's like,
It's me. Right.
finger at me. I'm doing what you told me. Well, you can't possibly be doing what you told me because if you had, it would be all the weight would be falling off and you'd be,
Yeah.
and no, like
No.
sometimes there's other confounding variables. It's why I'm talking about more of like trauma stuff in my work and some of these
Right.
non-nutrition things that
Right.
can, because it matters.
It matters. It all matters. And I walked away from there thinking, okay, I am going to be more disciplined. I'm going to go keto. Maybe that'll help my hair. He blamed the hair loss on, I'm not sleeping enough. I'm a mom of 3. I'm a blogger. I'm eating all the food, and get a trainer. So I did that. Go to Weight Watchers. Lower the fat. Your cholesterol's high. We could talk about that. And I believed it. And I will say that whole year of 2015, I ate all the fat, because before I was still depriving myself of the fat on low carb. And man, I felt satiated. I didn't lose weight, but all the hair came back. I didn't lose my eyebrows. I felt better, but it wasn't until 2018. So I was keto and I was making more recipes keto on the blog. But then in 2018, actually in the spring of 2018, January of 2018, I wrote a post, low carb versus keto, and my experience, how finally I could be at a party with people eating potato chips and I didn't crave them. Why? Because now I'm satiated with the good fats, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I interviewed a doctor that's a researcher. His name is Richard Johnson. About a decade ago, a little over a
Mhm.
decade ago, he came on my show and he was talking about how fructose was the cause of obesity, just fructose. And I remember challenging him on that. And I was like, I think you need to look into what role all carbohydrates, fructose or otherwise, play in obesity. And so he's like, okay, challenge accepted. And so he went and looked at it, Brenda, and lo and behold, he found the mechanism that when you eat a potato chip, for example,
Right.
it goes in your mouth, it turns to fructose in the body, and that's what makes it obesogenic. So that was like revelatory. And to his credit, he gives me credit for giving him that. Yeah. I recently had him on and said, look at the vegetable oil connection as well.
Yes.
Looking into that now. But
Yeah.
like, it's amazing. People hear sugar and they're like, I don't eat table sugar.
Right.
They don't think about ketchup has high fructose
Right.
corn syrup. They don't think about all the little
Pasta, breads, pasta.
Yes, it's in everything, and they hide it so well. I've had all kinds of different sugar experts on my show over the years, from Robert Lustig to like literally everybody you can think of, and they talk about all the names of sugars now. I mean,
Right.
it's not the OSE on the end to tell you it's sugar.
Right.
It's a lot. Like even like my favorite one, evaporated cane juice.
Right.
You
Right.
mean you mean dried sugar? So
Right. Yeah. So for me, it took me a while to recognize it, but finally, after the 3 years and January, I was like, in January 2015, I'm going to be strict. I'm going to do, 20 carbs a day. I'm going to be meticulous because I wanted to go back to the doctor, really, and say, I'm at 1,200 calories. And I did. And I wrote a post. I even put before and after pictures. I lost like 2 pounds. You can visibly see the pictures. I've lost body fat. But then after that, in the spring, I broke out in hives. I didn't know it at the time. Mold in the house. So my thyroid was affected first before we found the mold. So high toxic mold in the house. And that's the hives. And then I ended up with a, reaction to everything. But for me, it took time to recognize that eating the higher fat for me was healing my body and removing the cravings that I had when I was just low carb. And not everybody has to be keto. And that's something I try to advocate. Like I am a sugar detox coach. I'm here to help you get rid of the sugar. If you need to go higher carb than me, fine.
right.
If it works for you, right? It doesn't have to be this way. It's bio-individual,
You learned that in your NTP training.
Yes.
Well done. So
yes.
yeah, it's amazing to me. People become so hard-nosed that the diet that works for them, everybody has to now suddenly do that diet. It was that way really hard in paleo. I was like the low carb guy in paleo. And a lot of people did low carb that ate paleo, but then there were high carb athlete paleo people. They were kind of moderate carb. Let's put the maple syrup in there. Let's eat the white potato because it's a safe starch if you cook it, chill it, and like all this kind of stuff. And there's so many moving parts that I think sometimes people's heads swim. I'm a reductionist. I'm like, let's break it down to what are the core things we kind of all believe in. Most of us believe getting rid of at least the refined sugars and obviously refined grains, and from there tweak it. Okay, if you need to go very low carb and go keto, that's one that maybe you can do more moderate carb but still be in a good health. Do that. It goes back to find what works for you and do it.
Right. For me, that's the thing. I started recognizing that, a lot of people come to my website, to my Facebook page, because they are searching, how do I get rid of these stinking cravings? And I, try to be an example of you have to figure out what's going to work for you. And you've got to test your blood sugar. You've got to. I mean, it's the best way to know. I've tried multiple times to try sweet potato just to see. And often, it spikes me within the hour. I could be at 90 and then I'm up to 150, and for me, I feel crappy all day. Even if it goes back down to 90, within the next hour, I don't feel good. I'm hungry. I'm craving. So everyone is so different, that dopamine response. And then I have people in my sugar detox course that even the sweeteners that will not spike blood sugar, the ones I use are stevia, allulose, erythritol, and monk fruit. Those are the only 4 I use. And studies show they don't spike blood sugar, but that cephalic, response, some people, the taste of any sweetness triggers that dopamine and they can't have it. Right?
What that word you use? Cephalic?
Response is like any sweetness.
A lot of people ask me, Jimmy, how do you get such good deep sleep. Well, there's a lot of things that I do, but one of the newest things that I recently added is this upgraded magnesium from a company called Upgraded Formulas. Go to their website, upgradedformulas.com, and you can learn all about this nano technology that they use for this particular mineral of magnesium. Again, it's called Upgraded Magnesium, and it's got all the different forms of magnesium in it using the nanotechnology, so it gets absorbed a lot better. Guys, I have seen my deep sleep improve by as much as 30 to 40% simply by adding in this product along with sunshine exposure, darkness in the room, cooler temperature, all of the things that I always have done. So again, upgradedformulas.com is the website. Go check them out. So I've heard of hedonic response, that once you get that taste, it's like you can't stop. You have to keep doing it. And so that's a trigger. Like if you guys know that's a trigger for you,
right,
stop before you start.
right,
and get that under control. And it could be, and by the way, back in 2011, I did a sweet free challenge N=1 for a whole month.
Did you?
Ate the same meals that I always had, but I was not allowed to have any food that tasted sweet. So not only sugar, of course, but no sweeteners, not even fruit, not even like almonds, which taste sweet to the tongue. So if it had any sweet taste at all, I was trying to train my brain not to taste sweet. What does that feel like? And then after the 30 days was over, reintroduce the sweet. Now, oh my God, Brenda, it blew my head off. Everything was so overwhelmingly sweet. To this day, I still can't eat berries. They're too sweet.
Wow. And did you test your blood at the time? Did you try stevia or other sweeteners?
Yeah. I'm out in the post experiment. Yeah, I've tested my blood because I back in the day I used to do all these N=1 testing with blood sugar because I was kind of a nerd, and I'm still a nerd. But I did sugar, I did Splenda, I did stevia, I did erythritol, and all these different ones just to see. And some of them were like in the Diet Coke form. Okay, that little mix with aspartame. What does that do? And so it was fascinating for me. A lot of them made me hypoglycemic.
Oh, really?
Pushing insulin up.
Okay.
Pushing blood sugar up, and so my insulin was pushing down the glucose because there was nothing for it to consume. There was no glucose there, so it was pushing me down. So I start getting like dizzy headed, eating. But like not everybody has that response, which is again bio-individuality.
Right.
For you.
And I think that over time, when you decide to take away the sugar and the refined carbs and you eat a whole food diet, right? Protein, vegetable, healthy fat, maybe you do need to eliminate all the sugar-free desserts. Your, ghrelin hormone, the leptin hormone, all of that can start regulating. And that's what I found. Like, so I think if someone had told me back when I was going sugar-free, I could never have a sugar-free dessert again, I would have said, I can't do this then. I want to be able to make a birthday cake that I can enjoy. I don't want to have a life where I can't have certain things and have FOMO. I want to be able to make those desserts. So for me, it was a challenge. And I was like, I'm going to a party with my dessert and everybody's going to love it.
Follow Dr. Will Cole. He has reframed FOMO into JOMO, the joy of missing out, because you have joy cutting sugar out because you know how it's helped your health. And so the interesting little psychological thing you can like.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I like that. No, because for me now, that's what I love to create in the kitchen, because I get that dopamine kick when the jaws drop, because my family doesn't do low carb except my husband, and my kids are low carb. But the rest of the family, Italian, they eat the bread. In fact, my dad, I talked to him yesterday, Brenda, he's got the Sicilian, I'm making your favorite food. I said, what is it, Daddy? Bread? He's like, yes, rustic bread. I like gluten. Oh, so he still asks me 15 years later. And, it's fine. I just smile and I say, Daddy, it's fine, but I'm not having it. You can't convince me. You can't convince me.
I still love you, Dad, but I love myself and my health even more. So.
Yeah.
So Cheryl had a question. She said, so what was it that made your hair fall out, Brenda? I've been keto about 2 years. I've
Mhm.
lost 130 pounds, but my hair got really thin over that last 6 to 8 months.
So eating the high fat in 2015 helped me grow the hair back. My
Yep.
doctor wouldn't test for the thyroid. So I did get a trainer. I didn't lose weight. But by 2015, the eyebrow hair started falling out again. The bald spot in the back started coming back. So there are some people that need medication, right? Keto can't fix everybody with low thyroid. So I knew in my heart I had low thyroid. I went back to the doctor in 2018. I said, again, I'm lethargic. I'm falling asleep at the wheel. I need 4 cups of coffee a day to survive. I'm forgetting my friends' names. I
Yes.
mean, I felt like you know what they wanted to do? Oh, let's go see a psychologist. Let's go see if you have, brain issue. So finally he said, no, I'm not going to test you. I said, well, I will pay for my records to be sent to an endocrinologist who found chronic Epstein-Barr and found low thyroid. But I will say this, my thyroid number for 3T3 was in range. It was at the bottom of the range with all these horrible symptoms. And I begged her to give me a small dose for a month to just see if my symptoms, because aren't we supposed to go by symptoms?
Yes.
I don't care what those ranges are. If you feel like crap, you're not optimal. I don't care, So she did. She was willing, and she gave me the lowest dose, and I felt better. But it was only Synthroid, so it was only T4. So for those who don't know, your T4 is your storage hormone. Like it's like your gasoline tank, right? And your free T3 is where you pump, you pump the active hormone that you need for metabolism in your brain and all these things. And so you've got to be able to convert T4 to T3. So my free T3 was super low. And I even said to her, I said, well, it's 2.2. So if it was 2.1, you'd put me on medication if it was one number different. And she said, yes. So anyway, they gave me the T4, but 6 months in and I still didn't feel great. And then I read a book, Stop the Thyroid Madness.
Yes.
Yep. And I read L. Russ's book, I have it here, Paleo-Thyroid Solution. And I said, isn't my issue free T3? Can't you just give me a nice combination? So I'm advocating for myself. I'm teaching the doctor because they put everybody on Synthroid. Well, it didn't work for me.
They don't even know about like the desiccated pig thyroid.
No, right.
Nothing.
Right. So she was going to do that for me. And I have gluten allergies and dairy allergies, and the fillers contain those things.
Yes.
So she put me on a compounded.
It probably do just desiccated pig thyroid with non-reactionary fillers, but that's expensive.
Right. It is. It was out of pocket. It was like $60 per month. But I did it because I was like, I don't want those fillers. I'm trying to, remove these fillers. So that's what ended up happening in the finally, I think it was finally when we got adjusted, spring of 2019. She put it on, she put me on it, and within a month, changing nothing in my diet, all the symptoms went away. Yeah. All of them. I lost 8 pounds effortlessly.
Wow.
So it was my thyroid all along.
Wow. Well, and look, that's the other moving parts to this. Like, I get a lot of criticism online, if you haven't noticed. And so people just say, well, you're eating keto. You should be able to get your weight under control. You look unhealthy, all this nonsense that they put out there. And it's like, there's so many moving parts to this outside diet that, like, if I go to the rest of my life, dedicate people to look at all the things outside of diet, I assume that there's enough resources out there and kind of know how to do the diet. Then if you get stuck at that point, all right, now let's look at other things. Like I'm doing ice baths right now.
I've been watching you. You're the greatest biohacker of all. That's amazing. Every day. Yeah, that's really great.
Those kind of things, Brenda, it's like if you can't get the diet down and don't get discouraged along the way. This is something that if someone's on a sugar-free journey or a low-carb ketogenic journey and they're not seeing the results they want in the time frame they want, and that they'll give up because, well, I'm not seeing any weight loss, not realizing that, okay, now that your foundation is in place with the nutrition and getting minerals and vitamins and sufficiency in the endocrine system balance out things, then you can start working on these other things to try to move the needle more. But it's not just the food. In fact, who was it? Melissa Hartwig from the Whole30, she wrote a
Yes.
book called It Starts with
Yeah.
Food. Not starts and ends, just
Right.
start with food, and then you build from there.
Right. And I was, I was grateful for these, these discoveries that happened because then I researched everything and I became an advocate for myself. And then, but lo and behold, it was the mold. So we didn't know about the mold until 2020 when COVID hit. My daughter had to be home more, right? So she's in her room. She started having symptoms. And that made us investigate the house. So though my thyroid seemed better, the mold toxicity was in her and me. We were susceptible. My husband and sons were not. And then I had all those symptoms back again with the hair loss. But this time we figured it's not the thyroid. Which one was it first? We don't know. Probably the mold. But that's when you realize I've got to be my own advocate. I went back to the endocrinologist and I said, I'm having these symptoms. And then she looked, she was giving me now too much T3 and it made my free T4 go low. And then I had those brain fog symptoms again, like I was losing my mind, whatever. And so I bought an infrared sauna. Dr. Will Cole's my doctor, been working on that to detox the mold. Finally, it took a while, but finally the mold is out. My daughter's being treated as well. And you just uncover these things that as you remove yourself from sugar and refined, and you stop numbing yourself to feel better, then you recognize, okay, there is more to this because I'm being diligent in the food, right?
Thank you for saying that, because I feel like a lot of people go on the diet, whatever diet, they pounds, they feel better, and they think that's the end of the story.
Right.
To me, that's just the opening chapter in this long ass novel. So
You're right.
rest of your life. And it's like, if you start it, but then you don't finish it, how do you know how the story ends? Like, don't you want to see how the story ends? And so this is why I'm so passionate about everything.
Yeah.
Is in this space, because then once you get one done, okay, let's see what a little more optimal means. And so let's get training. Let's go do regular walks and get breathing and sunshine. Let's see what that does. Let's optimize our sleep. Let's do all stress management, all these different things. Let's cut out dairy. Let's see if that makes a difference for a period of time. That's what I'm not eating any dairy at all.
Oh, it's so hard.
Well, and it's not as bad because I've done this a little while.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. It makes it more enjoyable for me to have dairy, but I can if I need to. But I want to see, does it have any effect on and just how I feel? So I love that you're articulating all this, because I think so many people put all the onus on the diet to do all the things in their health. And best diet in the world, Miss NTP, would have never fixed that mold toxicity.
No, never would have fixed the mold, never would have fixed the thyroid. And yet I still get things when I talk about the thyroid, like, well, you should be able to get off your medication now. Well, no, I check it regularly. We check it. In fact, I got to go in a couple of weeks. Everything's everything's going well, but I'm still feeling like, for me, there's still body fat loss that I can't seem to budge, and I am doing, I work out with a trainer 3 times a week. I am incorporating more intermittent fasting into my life. And I have 2 nodules on my thyroid. So I know when I intermittent fast, I'm seeking autophagy, because I know that is the only way to really recycle those bad damaged cells in there. And when I went recently, 6 months ago, for the ultrasound, one of the thyroid nodules was diminished, and they can disappear. So I believe in intermittent fasting. I've never had to do it as much as I am now. I got COVID last January. I noticed hair loss then. It started coming out, which made me investigate hormones. So I'm like, you know what? Let's do a Dutch test with Dr. Cole. And guess what? Guess what else? Besides the mold toxicity, hypothyroid, high estrogen. Now, Jimmy, I'm an NTP. I've non-toxic everything. I don't drink from plastic. I don't eat in plastic. All the things in my home. I mean, it's just shocking that some people, right, are more susceptible than others. And imagine if I hadn't changed over my lifestyle 10 years ago, I would have been worse off. So now I'm working on that. But thank God, when you find these things out, to how can I change it? How can I get optimal, right?
This is why all the criticism of people that still struggle in their health, have weight issues still, I'm like, you need to have compassion for them, because here you are in Italy, got all this clean green stuff in
Yep.
your everywhere, and you
Yeah.
still got mold. You still got this toxicity. You still have the estrogen dominance.
Dominance. Yeah.
Yikes. Like, come
Yeah.
on, guys, we can be better than that.
Right. Well, I think it just makes you question, okay, where am I, where can I change things? Where can I improve? And it even made me go into DNA and look into, I did DNA power for more, better than 23andMe, a little bit more information. And I found out for me, I get out, I walk the dog twice a day. I get out in the sunshine. I'm in the Northeast though. So obviously the sun, I have a happy lamp,
So
you
you
know.
you get cold thermogenesis whether you want it or not.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, my husband and I have a hot tub. So we went in the hot tub the other night and then we walked outside in the snow.
Yeah.
It was great, But I
And
have all these things to increase my vitamin D, yet my vitamin D is still low. How do I know this? Dr. Cole checks me. I have to double up on my supplements. Besides all the other things I do, I have a SNP in my genes that makes it harder for me to absorb vitamin D. So this information, it's just wonder. I love learning
yeah,
about these things.
learn, the more you get frustrated at kind of the state of health being so simplified,
Right.
especially like, I love my carnivore people. I'm one of them, but they're like, just eat carnivore and all your problems and your health go away. I'm like, if only. I
Yeah,
really,
I tried. Yeah, I tried as well. I tried for a good 2 months under Dr. Cole's supervision, and still, we found I have a histamine intolerance. So even meat I was reacting to just meat for 2 months. I did feel better, but for me as a food blogger and creating recipes, it was really hard to say that way. But I have protein days. I do my protein days, you
right.
know.
Today we're going to have a beef meatloaf. Tomorrow we'll make a turkey meatloaf. The day after that, we'll make a chicken meatloaf. It's like, how do you like variety the
Yeah.
meat?
I love when I do a protein day, I do love having variety. My husband will jump on board with that, like smoked canned oysters with some salmon. I love those carnivore crisps. I love eggs. We have chickens like you, chickens and ducks. I just like to have variety if I'm just going to do a protein day. And I love the idea of the protein sparing modified fast from Maria and Craig. I did do it prior to learning I was hypothyroid. Difficult for me because I do love my fat, so it was hard for me to really get lower fat, but it did help for being stalled. But for me, I just prefer more of a protein day, rather than just going that low. But it does help many, you try everything.
When it comes to carnivore recipes, I think the pro edit is JC from Lady Carnivory. She makes do you know her? Do you follow her?
No, I'll have to follow her. Thank you.
She makes some incredible recipes, and you're sitting there going, that's all animal foods, really?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I love that.
Sweet. So Kim says, when you were giving up sugar, when you got the sugar cravings, what did you replace it with? So I can tell you, for me, if you take away a sugar, you kind of do need to replace those calories. Not that I think calories matter, but from a satiety standpoint, to calm the cravings, for me, and let's see what you say, it was definitely fat that helped with that. And obviously the natural proteins that would come with the fat, or vice versa, the protein that comes with the natural fats that come with that. But like, that's the point. You want to replace the sugar, right? Is that kind of what you...
Yes. Yeah. For me, yes, the healthy fats were the things that I needed to do. So I would enjoy nut butters. I would enjoy cheese and dairy and things like that, because I felt like when I had more fat, I felt satiated. But then as time went on, I realized more protein was better for me. So I noticed that increasing, rather than butter in my coffee, I would have collagen, and I would feel more satiated for longer periods of time. So I started doing a higher protein approach where, really trying to get in 100 grams of protein per day. And then by the evening, I wasn't opening the cupboards looking for things to eat, because I was getting the nutrient dense protein that my body was seeking. And I think especially for women, a lot of women think they're eating enough protein and they aren't, So I always recommend higher protein and still enjoying the fat, but you can use fat as a lever. You don't have to be super high fat, you know?
Did you go keto and thought you had to give up wine? Well, let me introduce you to Dry Farm Wines. It is the world's first sugar-free alcohol that is lower than your typical wines, organic, made at local farms that do it the right way. Most of the wines that you buy are from 3 really big companies, loaded with additives and preservatives, so many dozens of those kinds of things. You don't want all that junk in your wine. So go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and they will ship you these wines. And just because you listen to this podcast, Dry Farm Wines is going to give you a bottle in your first order for just 1 cent. Go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and you will get your bottle of wine for just 1 singular penny. Go check them out. Dry Farm Wines, you guys. It's wine o'clock somewhere. Let's go get some wine. Well, and especially if you have a lot of fat on the body, people forget to factor that in. That also makes what you eat a high diet, even if you're not having as much fat nutritionally. If you're eating it naturally with the proteins, like don't go super low fat and have like breasts. Like if that makes you happy and you do well with it, fine. But most people don't. I get hangry when I eat chicken breasts. So
Yeah, they're not good. They don't taste very good.
#1 seller in America because people still buy into the fat phobia. And so, chicken breast is protein, but no fat. So best of both worlds. And then they're like, why am I so hungry an hour after eating it?
Yeah.
I experiment, what was it, 4 years ago, where all I ate for a week, 7 days in a row, was like lean meats.
Oof.
I did a podcast at the time. And so it was me and a medical doctor, Dr. John Lemansky. We both ate, I think I ended up averaging for the week 270 grams of protein a day.
Oh, wow.
Boy, but that's still a lot of protein. So,
Yeah.
and it only comprised like 47% of my total calories because even as high a protein as I could gorge in my mouth, still couldn't get over 50% of the calories because it still came with, there was some still natural fats in there. So, and of course, carbs were nil. So, and I was starving all the time. I was getting hypoglycemia all the time. Back to your point, potato chips, and there's no sugar, but I wasn't doing well. So for me, I was constantly just miserable, just laid on the couch.
Yeah. I know. That's how I felt. So I like my fat, I like my fat, but I also learned through this experience of the thyroid that not everyone can really do 75% fat and lose weight, right? So I took it down to about 60%. And I knew from my education with nutritional therapy that for my hormones to be balanced, I needed to get in at least 50 grams a day of some kind of healthy fat, or we're going to have problems.
Yes.
So for me, I still stick to that, and I use fat more now as a lever where I prioritize the protein, and I don't have cravings. But I would recommend for those who do still are trying to fight that craving, prioritize the protein, make some healthy sugar-free desserts so that when those cravings come, you can turn to that, right? And you won't spike your blood sugar, and hopefully that will be enough to not turn to the white refined sugar and refined carbs. I think you use it as you need it for a little while until you can feel confident without it.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate on that because I've heard the debate on both sides of this over the years. I agree with you, by the way. I think you're spot on. I think having those available, especially early on, if you're kind of brand new and you're just giving up sugar, like if I didn't have a little diet soda and a little kind of treats when I first started Atkins a million years ago, I would have gone crazy. So it did help. So I agree with you in that aspect. But people will say, but Brenda, if you just tell them to eat a little more fat and protein, just have them have like 6 ounces of steak, that'll take care of that craving. What would you say?
I would say it's true, but I mean, some people really feel like life will end if they can't have some kind of dessert. So isn't a sugar-free dessert made with sweeteners that aren't going to spike your blood sugar, isn't that better than saying, okay, I did great for 5 days and then throw it in on Friday night to get popcorn at the movies because they feel like they just can't, right? They just have to binge. So, it's just it begs the question that everybody's got to decide what's right for them. And if that's not going to throw you over the edge enjoy the sugar-free dessert. If that sweet taste is going to make you want 5 desserts, then maybe you should have no sweets on your tongue for at least a month to get rid of that craving.
And this is why know thyself. And
Yeah.
can't say, well, go make the treats. Like, I almost hated it when I first started seeing like keto cookbooks that were all dessert recipes. I'm really all dessert? Like,
Yeah.
it is want to have options, but we don't need 100 recipes that people are making every day. Like,
Right.
I had a problem with that, just because I know, at least for Jimmy, the mentalness of, if I want some more, I want some more. And yes, it's healthier, but just because it's healthy, and that also plays a psychological role in this. Well, it's a healthier option, so it's healthy. I can have more of it because it's healthy. So we fool ourselves into thinking we're eating healthy when actually caveman guy would have never eaten this thing.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I think people overindulge, you know. There's all these amazing recipes. I'm one of them. I make these amazing recipes, and I get that. But I get these questions, do you eat all these things that you share every day? No. I eat, my husband, my family and I, we eat protein, vegetables, and healthy fats like every day. And on the weekends, I make a special treat, you know, for them to enjoy for the weekend and myself to enjoy for the weekend. But it's a whole food approach. And I think when we go back to basics, that's where healing in your body can really take place. And you can really start down regulating that dopamine response that is so triggered by sweet things.
I remember interviewing Maria Emmerich on this show one time before, and she was talking, because I asked her the same question. Wow, you make a lot of dessert recipes and all these like keto-fied whoopie pie and all this kind of stuff.
For the kids, yeah.
She's like, I got 2 little boys, and I would much rather them eat that stuff than the real thing. And now the boys are teenagers, and they're strong and healthy, and doesn't make as much of those things, and she's more into kind of like carnivore recipes and things like that. I think that's beautiful. Like, situationally, those things are awesome. And we need to be respectful. Again, I think some of the criticism that's out there in the community of people like yourself, well, how dare you make sugar-free recipes? You're not getting people off the addictive things. It's like, slow your roll, bruh.
Yeah.
There's a perfect time for it, and there's a time when you come off of it, but give that grace to be able to have that transitionary time, and know that there's kids that parents want to grow their kids up, because I'm sure your kids love all the things.
They love everything. In fact, I just started, you know, Keto Chow, and they sent me their egg white protein powder. So I've adapted my cloud bread recipe to become dairy free, because my daughter is really needing dairy free as well. And I have made 2 loaves. The boys have eaten it like crazy. So it's high protein and it's dairy free. I'll be sharing that this week. But the thing is, when you have a family, when you have others that are not, that's why I do what I do. I want my family to prefer the foods that I make at home. And okay, they go out of my house. I'm not, you know, crazy. Don't eat that. I don't do that because I don't want it more. But they are kids that prefer my cookies over the stuff that's out there. And I think you have to be flexible in your approach when you have a family. And also, like Sunday, my parents are going to come over, my siblings, and my daughter's 19th birthday. I'm making her a beautiful keto birthday cake, and everyone's going to love it. And my mom will bring her own cookies, whatever, but I don't care. I know that I can enjoy a piece of cake, and this cake is for my daughter, and it's going to be dairy free for her. And the kids appreciate that. And they also feel like when they taste other things outside of the home, even coleslaw. My kids went somewhere, the boys went somewhere, and they said, Mom, I can't even eat that coleslaw. It's so sweet. You know, your coleslaw is much better. So like, I feel like, even though I haven't told them never to eat those things, that I did the right approach in how I've raised them to choose smartly on the choice, the consequences of their choices.
Well, and they see you living by example. And that's probably the loudest thing you've told them, and it wasn't even vocalized. Yeah,
that's what my husband said. I have to tell you that he wasn't on board, and I started in 2006, and he didn't get on board, Jimmy, until he was turning 50. In 2018, he had a friend who died of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And from 2006 to 2018, he was not on board with me. He ate everything I made, but whenever he was away, He ate what he wanted until they're you know, everyone has something that is going to push them. You can't nag about it. You just can't nag about it for the people in your life. And I didn't, but he saw my example, just like what you said. And then the friend dying, and he's like, I've got to fix this. And he lost 50 pounds through intermittent fasting and keto. And we're still working on it. I see a lot of insulin resistance in him. He has 30 more pounds, but he's been stalled. So we're working on longer fasts now. And I'm doing that with him, 36-hour fast, you know, a couple times a week. And this month, at the beginning of each month, we're doing a 68-hour fast. So this is the beginning of March. So we're devoting our beginning of the month to this and really hoping to help him and myself with the high estrogen, you know, to start, you know, losing that weight again for him and everything. So
I should look into this fasting thing. It sounds fascinating.
I love that. I tell everybody about your book. I tell everybody about your book. I love that book. That is so informative. It's a great start for people to learn how to do it and learn what's right for them. Because I never lost weight just skipping breakfast and doing a 16-hour fast. Never. Not even an 18. I had to start doing longer fasts once a week to see weight loss. But for me now, it's autophagy is what I seek.
Yes, like I literally do a 72-hour fast at least once a quarter just for the autophagy benefits. And if you don't know what that is, go read my book. You know, I tell you,
Yes, good book.
it's better. The more you do them, the longer you can go. So you've done the intermittent, now just pushing it a little more. So I'm proud of you. And if I can personally coach you on that, you know how to find me. So
Yes, I would.
I want to follow up on the mold story because you kind of briefly said we got mold and now we're better. It's like, okay, what did you do? Because I've heard nightmare stories about mold. I remember, who was it? There, Sean Miner in the
Oh, yes.
he
I
had
know her. Yes.
out of her house into a whole nother city to get away from the mold, and it was affecting her. She gained so much weight. Her health was had health.
Yeah.
Like, did you have to do anything draconian like that?
Yeah, well, we didn't have to leave the house. The funny thing was, so we had a woman come in, she tested the walls. There was no visible mold anywhere, but in the air, in my bedroom and in my daughter's bedroom. So we believed that it was coming through the air vents, the vents, and we had a company come in and clean those. Now we moved into this house in 2015, and I started having issues in 2018, and then my daughter in 2020. So that's when we investigated the mold. And Dr. Cole had said it, Brenda, there's got to be some, and I'm like, no, we did the Petri dishes. Everything's fine until we had a professional come in and realize it was in the air, not in the bathrooms, not in the basement where you typically see mold. They cleaned the air ducts. I had her come back in 2 or 3 months, and it was cleaned out. It was all gone. But obviously for my daughter, it turned into Bartonella for her, and she has chronic Lyme. So, and for me, it was we had to do some natural treatments with Dr. Cole, and it took a good year before I started. And the infrared sauna helped before we saw that the testing showed there's no more in my body as of just a couple months ago. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, some people have to leave the home, but my husband's like, it's not anywhere. So then we realized we also have a camper, and we go camping seasonally in a seasonal place. I did the little Petri dish full mold from water damage in the camper. So my husband just cleaned all that. We're selling it. We cleaned it all up and fixed it. And so you never know. And you always have to, if you're still having symptoms, you have to realize it's got to be coming from somewhere.
Yes.
I was shocked that I didn't gain 20 pounds. I was shocked. But that's because I really...
And all the right things, and then this mold shows up, and it's like out of the blue. And these are the kind of things like people just see you and they go, oh, well, you must be eating donuts. You must be. And it's like, don't stop assuming that there aren't other things like mold and other factors. And I get mocked sometimes when I bring up like the trauma and stress, because people say, well, that's just an excuse for your bad diet. I'm just like,
oh, please.
Hold my beer, dude.
Yeah.
Hold my low carb beers.
Yeah.
But it's, you need to be kind, because you never know these kinds of things are happening. You didn't know, and you're in the health space.
Right. I didn't know the high estrogen. I was mad about the high estrogen. I'm like, how can I be doing this for 10 years and not recognize that this could be a trigger as well. So I had multiple things going on, and no, you never know until you get testing. You get testing, and that's the way to investigate it, because the mold was shocking for one, and then the estrogen is another. I said, I don't even know where the mold could be coming in. But again, I'm a person who has the gene MTHFR, and I have trouble detoxing. So obviously, if I, got high estrogen from way back however I was living, right, 15 years ago, just didn't get out of my body, so.
Yeah, that MTHFR is an MFer. It's bad.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. My daughter has it too, not the boys. How susceptible,
Of the alleles of the MTHFR, so gene mutation. So look it up, guys, if you don't know what that is. All right. One more thing I wanted to ask you about. Working with Dr. Cole. Like, you've been with a functional medicine doctor. A lot of people are hesitant about jumping to work with a functional medicine doctor because sometimes insurance is a little funky about functional medicine.
Yeah.
Dr. Cole, who I adore, used to do a podcast with him a million
Yes,
years.
I love that podcast.
Yes,
I loved it.
And so what's it been like? I've got about a couple minutes left. Tell me your experience working with him.
Well, in my area where I live, there's no functional doctors. I mean, unless I want to trek 2 hours somewhere. Online was the best option for me. And because of that podcast, because of listening to you and him, I was like, I'm going for the best. And though expensive, for me, it was worth every penny, because they test you regularly. You see them every few months. You see where, he does the approach of, let's try the natural approaches. We don't need, certain medications, though, of course, recommended. I have to see somebody for the thyroid and the endocrinology, but he looks at the whole person. And I just feel like it was a blessing to be able to do it all online and not even have to go in person. Yes, for me, the blood work was tricky. Having to go to a certain lab to get those, things done. Some things had to be out of pocket, but I couldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been able to know all the things that I know now had I not gone that route. So I recommend it.
And he is one of the kindest humans you will ever meet in your life. The persona he is online is exactly how he is in real life. So
I believe it.
Yes. So guys, Brenda Bennett is her name. Hope you go check her out. She's all about sugar addiction, sugar-free mom over on Instagram. And I saw a bunch of questions come in.
Okay.
Miss Sugar-Free Mom would love to answer your questions. Go send her a DM over on Instagram. Sugarfreemom.com is your website. And go pick up her book, Naturally Keto.
Yes.
Get back there on your shelf. Grab that back there.
I do have it back here.
Let them see it on the screen. She's like wedged in there. There it is.
Yeah, I do. So it doesn't fall on my head. But it's family friendly recipes, meals, whole food meals that you can enjoy with company and guests. And it's not just about desserts. For me, it's really about how can I enjoy making, having guests over and they don't really notice or care if it's keto.
That's right. Well, Brenda, you were such a delight here today. Thanks so much for joining me.
It has been my pleasure. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Time to get inspiration from the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Hey, the livinglowcarbshow.com. Woo!
Have you experienced the dreaded keto flu? Did you know that most of these symptoms are actually due to your body dumping excess electrolytes? This is where Element comes in. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt with no sugar. Element is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited to folks following a keto, low-carb, or paleo diet. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, with none of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Everyone needs electrolytes, especially those on low-carb diets, or if you practice intermittent or extended fasting, if you're physically active, or sweat a lot. Add Element today and see how much better you feel and perform. Use the URL drinklmnt.com/Jimmy.
Tired of playing the mask game? Me too. That's why I wanted to tell you about the Unmask. This is a breathable, completely breathable. It covers, you can't even see that it's breathable, but it's breathable. Whether you're going on a plane, having to go into a store and wearing this thing, playthemaskgame.com is how you can get this mask. They come in all kinds of colors and everything. In fact, right there, you can see right through it what it is, but when you're wearing it, it does not look like it's anything different, but it's breathable, baby. Playthemaskgame.com.